Roblox is currently one of the most successful examples of user-generated content, but they're neither the first nor the best. In fact, I don't know what you'd consider first, but the list of games that do it better than Roblox is just a post-it note with most of them scribbled on it. But I'd argue that among the best, if not very best, even better than Mario Maker, Dreams, or insert your personal favorite here, was 2016's Doom Snapmaps. Oh, you've never played it? Yeah, I'm not surprised. My pal Jello Blado recently gifted me a copy of Dead Zone Rogue, currently on early access. It's a movement shooter with engaging combat and a satisfying gameplay loop, and I enjoyed blasting my way through the currently available campaign very much, all while meditating on the reason my friend got me it, because of how much it reminded us of all the Doom Snapmap content we used to do. Scroll down the video feed of this channel and you'll see that the bulk of my content is, well, a hodgepodge of miscellaneous bits and bobs. You see, I never got the memo that a social media account is all supposed to be one thing, and my creative process is like supervising cats that are herding squirrels. But the bulk of it is from when I went all in on Doom 2016's Snapmap thing. I seem to recall Snapmap being sold as a way to relate to the original Doom's still active WAD community. So much of Doom 2016's marketing was like, hey, we know we goofed with making Doom 3 a survival horror thing, so here, let us show you how we're gonna go back to our roots. And yeah, I'll just say it, even if they didn't hit the mark precisely, Doom 2016 is still my favorite in the franchise. Not because it was a pure one-to-one nostalgia trip, but because of how well it hit the wonderful middle mark between nostalgia and expansion. And of course, because I loved the Snapmap. A tragic love story to be sure, because oh boy did I back the wrong horse. Let's start by breaking down what was so great about this greatest user-generated content creator of all time, asterisk in my opinion. So Doom Snapmap was one of Doom 2016's three branches, the other two being the stellar single-player campaign and the absolute dog sausage of a multiplayer mode. It offered the promise of an easy-to-use map editor where you could create, play, and share fully working levels using Doom 2016's assets. And for the most part, it delivered on the letter of that promise, if not the spirit. If all you wanted to do was blast the same demons with the same weapons in the same several small rooms, it had your hookup. But in Snapmap, you could also do this, and this, and this, and this, and even this. That's because Snapmap was essentially a Fisher-Price dev kit with a surprisingly robust and versatile coding system. Well, I say code, it was more like a lot of floating hexagrams and cycles representing functions that linked together like code, but once you got into it, it felt very retro-futuristic, kinda like you were Lawnmower Man making Doom fanfic. I am God here. There's something just cool about being able to visualize all your work as floating clouds of geometry, and you could use it to do some really amazing things beyond Snapmap's intended scope. Or if you were less ambitious, you could recreate things like COD Zombies or Five Nights at Freddy's. So why didn't more people engage with it? I mean, it wasn't from a lack of trying on id's part. If you wanted the 100% Doom 2016's achievements, you had to build at least one Snapmap. So clearly they intended people to engage with the thing. But that also meant you had to experience Doom Snapmap's most glaring fumbles. For starters, getting into Snapmap was a time investment, and I don't just mean the time it took to learn how the coding system worked, all without good documentation of its more esoteric logic nodes or its fussy and arbitrary resource limits. No, I mean the Doom Snapmap experience is easily 30% load screens and crash recoveries by volume. If you get a hankering to snap some maps, then what you gotta do is start up Doom 2016, wait for all the idents and warnings to get done putting the money on the screen before the first loading screen, then from the main menu, click the Snapmap tab. Then go get yourself a drink and maybe do those dishes you've been ignoring, while a whole separate program takes its sweet time loading, connecting to a server, loading some more, and then you finally get to the main screen where you can finally pick a map. Oh, but the loading's not done. Now you gotta pick a map, then wait another minute or two for that to load, and then hope whoever made this thing didn't program it so that dying once ends the map. Because if they did and you want a second go, you gotta sit through another loading screen, exit back to the lobby, and start the initial loading screen all over again. Now I've played my fair share of games where you have to endure less than optimal loading times to get to the good bits. The issue here is, since building maps was both an obtuse, complicated process and a mandatory part of 100% completion, the payoff didn't always match the buy-in. You weren't guaranteed a stable, balanced, and well-tested experience. In fact, you were way more likely to run into something thrown together during a tutorial, or carelessly slapped together by someone with zero playtime, meaning there's a non-zero chance more people people built snap maps than played them. If you wanted to know where the good maps were, or what esoteric bit of info you're missing that's causing fatal crashes, pro tip, it's because you set the player to the Predator suit skin and armed them with the Gatling gun, which before the final patch had a roughly 25% chance to make the entire EXE just nope the desktop with every death blow. I know, the answer was hiding in plain sight, am I right? You had to join the Snapmap community, and don't let the opening landing page fool you into thinking the Snapmap community was in any way connected to or endorsed by id. I mean, it was, for a little while at least, but they went radio silent out of nowhere back in July of 2017. So mostly it was just me and like 30 other random assorted weirdos from across the planet, sharing info through our streams and videos. I myself was lucky enough to get some shine in the community as one of the 4 creators featured on the final Community Spotlight update, so my Devil City Ransom map got a ton more attention than it would have gotten otherwise. You see these numbers here? These are not normal numbers for a snap map. This is more typical. Also, I deleted and re-uploaded Devil City Ransom 4 years ago just to see what would happen. It broke the link and it hasn't been fixed since. So there's my true Snapmap legacy. I'm personally responsible for Snapmap's landing page being 1/4 busted. Serves them right for misspelling my name. Here's the thing though, a lot of this crabbing is itself nostalgia. To love Snapmaps was also to kind of hate it more than a little. That's because the bile wasn't coming from a place of childish ridicule but legitimate frustration. Because we saw the potential this feature offered, and we put in the sweat equity to meet it halfway. When I think of how many people will never be able to appreciate the massive inspirational footprint of Taylorhead's innovative scoring mechanics, or Dario Butelli's gorgeous builds, or J.R. Crash's meticulous prop and geo animations, or Behemoth Programmer's coding genius, or heck, why be humble, my own experiments in finding new angles to engage with the existing mechanics, I do feel a bit sad. It sucks that great mappers like Justin, Psycho Knight, Rock Hard Gamer, Terratella, BAD Floppy, and a whole mess of others that'll let me know what a jerk face I am in the comments for not mentioning them, hopefully after they liked and subscribed this video, please and thank you, will never have their hours of waiting for loading screens and poor performance acknowledged until years later in a retrospective video like 300 people will even see, because if clicking a thumbnail on an unfamiliar topic is too big an ask, then what did you expect 5 freaking minutes of loading to be, Bethesda? Yeah, it's all unfortunate. At the same time, do not take this as a recommendation. Seriously, not even as streaming fodder. Snapmap is a brilliant gem, but it's also buried under several layers of jagged glass, crabby mole people, and an infertile crust of half-baked minimum effort. And that's just if you want to play the dang things. Never mind waiting to make one for an audience of the occasional oldie mourning the good old days. Now, the best way to appreciate Snapmap now is in its legacy of underwatched videos. In addition to my own library, I can recommend checking out Rock Hard Gamer 45, FNSG, and Piece of Pie Software. And Kirby help you if you do decide to grit your teeth through the loading screens. I can also recommend the aforementioned mappers, as well as my main account, Z-Manzilla, my alt account, Brock_Disco, where I made my final 2 maps, Jump Shot and Punch a Demon in the Hoo-Ha, and Bat Sam, my other alt account, where I made a map called Get In Loser, We're Going to Hell as an elaborate prank. Yeah, for the last few mappers who didn't know, that was the mystery. I made a map on my wife's Xbox account and then hyped it on my own channel just to see if I could get a discussion going. A total stinker. In any case, Doom Snapmap was, and still is, a wholly fun experience that will someday be worthy of its own Blade Runner monologue. Because as a Snapmapper, I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. Giant mechanical skeletons animated like something out of a 3D Tiger handheld game. I watched Jibs fly off spawn assets in a way the code should have never allowed. I saw 2 skeletons having deep conversations about relationships in between rounds of hectic boomer shooter combat. All those moments will be lost in time, like tears in the rain. And yet, it still managed to outlive Anthem. No Dwaynes, no Dwaynes, no Dwaynes!